Good evening and welcome to the May 25th, 2021 Millis High School School Committee meeting. I'm going to take attendance. Ms. Roach?
Here.
Mr. Conroy?
Here.
I am here. Mr. Catalano?
Here.
And Ms. Gibbons is not here. We're also joined by our student rep, Dory, and our superintendent here, Mr. Mulaney. I just want to remind you that the meeting is being recorded and can be viewed on Mondays at 7 p.m. on Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 37. All meeting videos are also posted to the Millis Public Schools website under School Committee, and the times are approximate, and it can also be viewed on YouTube. Should we start with our student rep? Right,
Yes.
Dory.
So seniors are done with school and finishing up their AP exams. Graduation is next Thursday, and rehearsals will start next week. And then starting next week, sophomores and freshmen in the high school will be taking MCAS. Middle schoolers will also be taking the MCAS, and elementary schoolers will be taking that.
Thank you, Dory. This is your last school committee meeting, and we have a little thank you from all of us for coming and reporting about the school.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank
Dory. Thanks, Dory. You have to open it up, Dory.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, it's perfect. Matches my whole outfit.
Yeah.
I'll wear it for my cornhole tournament.
Yep.
There you go.
Don't get heat stroke.
And you
Thank
can,
you very much.
and we figured you could wear it when you're out riding
Yeah.
on the helmet or something. Yep.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Take
Thank
care.
you, Dory.
See you next Thursday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and no teacher up today, so we'll move on to some of the action items. Consideration to approve the May 11th school committee meeting minutes.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
I make a motion to approve the May 11, 2021 Millis School Committee meeting minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. There is consideration to approve a purchase of the mobile device management system, JAMF, in the amount of $12,150. Mr. Wigan, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, this is a regular purchase that we make every year. It's increased slightly every year, either because of an increase in the contract or an increase in the devices, this year a little bit of both. We would ask that you approve this to manage all the mobile devices we have in the district.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Roach.
is this is already budgeted, right?
This is already
Okay,
budgeted.
thank you.
So there are three, Madam Chair, there are three items on this. They're all connected. I know do we have to vote them separately because they're all over 5,000?
Well, they're all separate vendors, all over 5,000, so
Okay.
And they are all budgeted.
they are all budgeted.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Was there a motion already?
No.
No.
Oh, Madam Chair.
Ms. Roach.
I make a motion to approve the purchase of the mobile device management system in the amount of $12,150.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Roach.
I make a motion to approve the maintenance and support contract of our Juniper switches micronet in the amount of $6,300.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the support for the Juniper switches. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Roach.
I make a motion for the purchase of the wireless access network support and maintenance contract, Okers, in the amount, is that how you say it? In the amount of $8,263.99.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for the wireless access network maintenance contract. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Roach.
keep going.
Yeah.
I make a motion for the approval of the first year of the Apple lease.
And with that one, can I give you a number?
Ye-
That would not to exceed $23,900.
Okay, so I'll start over. I make a motion for the approval of the first year of the app lease in the amount not to exceed $23,900.
That's correct.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the Apple lease. Any further discussion? Oh, did you want to say something?
Nope,
Jerry?
nope, go
Okay.
ahead.
You can.
No, I was just gonna say, this is part and parcel of what, for years, you had been doing. It's the first year of the lease where we do, typically speaking, part of it is replacement of devices, and then part of it is usually a project with maybe replacement of a specific type of laptops, desktops, something like that. So,
Yeah, Ms. Starr spoke to this at the last meeting about
right, she gave you an update of what was
the
gonna be part
updating
of
the
this.
cycle. Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The consideration of the waiver to the Millis Pride basketball for the week of July 12th to July 15th at the middle school and Clyde Brown gyms for the summer camps.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
I make a motion to waive the facility rental fees for the Millis Pride Basketball Week running July 12th through July 16th, both at the high school and the Clyde Brown. This waiver does not, they still have to pay custodian fees, but they will, the facility rental fees will be waived.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to waive the Millis Pride basketball fees for the summer camp for the gyms. Any further discussion? I'd just like to say that we've been keeping track of this for the last few years, and we have a spreadsheet, and this is consistent with what we've been doing in the past. Yep.
And we also have a letter, I'm not sure if it's on the agenda. We also have a letter from the boys' camp in June with the same request, a letter from Paul Adams.
Yes, should that be a second motion, though?
I have both of them here. Yep.
I mean, I have both.
They're in the packet, it's just not on the.
So let's do,
Yeah,
I called Millis Pride.
yeah,
He said
that's
we'll
okay.
We'll
We
vote
can-
this one and then
And then we'll just do
yeah.
another.
All right, let's do the vote, and then I'll
Because
do
it's
the
a
second.
different date. Okay, so we've moved and seconded, and we've had some discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
I make a motion to
Decision was made to revisit it in the fall, and in this fall, there were no middle school sports, so we didn't have a sub-varsity cross-country team.
It
So
looks,
that discussion
This
didn't
would be
happen.
approving it,
For
approving
the
the funding,
Right, of a coach for the fall.
right, which wouldn't be,
It's not a
Not a
specific
personnel.
person.
Right.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
yep.
So
Got it.
why
It looks
wasn't
like
this
we've
done
already-
as part of the budget cycle? That would be my question to the business manager. I'm not opposed to this, but I'm wondering, why are we doing a one-off stipend for a cross-country coach while not part of the budget cycle?
Well, I think we were still, during the budget cycle, we were still in the midst of COVID, and we quite honestly weren't sure what the need was, and when we're not sure what the need was, typically we don't include it in the budget. We kind of revisited it in the last weeks, I think, to be truthful, and it came forward as a need, and that's why it's coming forward to you now. So it may be shame on us for not budgeting for it as a contingency, but I think given the tightness of the budget and the fact that there was, at the time of, in the winter, a great deal of uncertainty as to whether the position would be needed, it was simply something that we felt that to, find some change to do some savings, we left it out.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Gunn.
this is from a revolving fund, correct?
This particular coach will come from a revolving fund,
So-
yes.
So it's coming from fees.
Correct.
So the other reason is they just last week was when interest forms for how many participants they would have for next fall. Literally, they are just finding out. So in order to know whether it was you need to know your participant level to understand whether you're going to have enough fees coming in to support it. So I'm assuming that based on interest level, there's enough participation, that it would be helpful from a supervisory perspective to have more than one adult coaching, and 2, that the fees are going to support this position at this rate.
And I can certainly speak to the second part of that, because certainly in the past, as I think everybody here knows, the revolving fund has sometimes, when we get to this time of year, we're actually covering a deficit in the revolving fund. That is not the case this year. Actually, we expect to bring forward, for the first time in many years, a fund balance. Actually, for the revolving fund of athletics, actually probably a fairly substantial one. Now, part of that we have to be careful about, because it was based on the fact that last winter we had purchased all of our spring sport items, and then of course COVID hit, so we didn't use them, and now of course we're using them, but we didn't need to repurchase them. But nonetheless, it's a fund balance, and I think that's part of why we felt we could fund this position next fall out of the revolving fund.
So, Madam Chair, are you asking, is there a specific dollar amount? Or is it just so we can?
I believe it's in the contract.
Yep, it's in the packet.
2465.
Okay.
Miss, yeah.
In your e-packets and in your paper packets, what I did was I gave you the memo that Mr. granted last January.
Yep.
And then I attached the minutes that were attached to the meeting.
Yep.
On page 3,
Yep.
you approved 2 of his requests.
Mhm.
Steve made the motion and the rest you approved. And then that third request, you all said, there was also a third request for the funding of the assistant cross-country coach in the amount of $24.65, but it was determined that this discussion should wait until fall FY '21. So it was never discussed in last fall because of COVID.
Sure.
So that's why I'm gonna guess because that's why it didn't make it into the budget. But this is your backup, so it should be in the.
Thank you.
So
Yep.
we've already done the other
You did
2.
2
Yeah.
of the 3
Yes,
of them.
the other 2 have been done, and
So
and
it's just the
budgeted.
track coach,
So this
The
is
cross-country
or
assistant.
the cross-country.
Same amount. And we do have the assistant track coach this season.
Mr. Wigan, are there other positions, meaning as we go into the budget, and my question was not in opposition of this position, right? I was
Understood.
merely, it is, I don't want to say odd is not the right term. It is a little out of cycle right here, right? And so I understand there is a demand for it, we have the money so everything's fine. But going forward, we should, especially where there's kind of dual funding, both from the operating and from revolving, we should make sure that we, at least in the budget, list out all the potential coaches that could be hired, right? So we're not in this position, I don't think we just stack the numbers up, but we don't have to create this situation in the future. And I know that this is a new program, so that's why maybe it's just out of cycle, a one-off, but I also don't want to make more work for you in the future around issues like this.
No, we can certainly do that. I think in the past, because I'll be honest with you, because of the way the salary matrix works or has worked in the past with Millis, we've looked at athletic salaries as one line. We haven't necessarily looked at each individual component, and part of that is because over the years what has happened is as one coach maybe moves up a step based on the collective bargaining agreement, another one backs out and starts, and so the replacement coach is starting at the beginning. It all is.
And they're not full FTEs,
Right.
right? So some of them are just small little
Exactly.
stipends, and
So-
some of them are unpaid.
So basically, it kind of works out. But to list them out individually, certainly, it's not really a huge problem to modify the grid to work that out.
It wouldn't hurt just for an exercise in showing where
Yep.
because other than that, you can map out every dollar to
Yes.
every position,
Oh,
right?
yes,
90% of our budget is, if not more,
Absolutely.
personnel, so.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Roach.
I make a motion to approve the funding of an assistant cross-country coach in the amount of $2,465.
Sorry, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thanks, Barry.
So I'm gonna skip over the next one until we chat about that, I think further down on the time on learning for the handbooks. So we'll go right to the consideration to appoint the Accept Bod Board representative for the 2021-2022 school year.
Madam
Accept
Chair,
BOD. Yeah, Ms. Roach.
I make a motion to appoint the Accept Bod representative for the 2021-2022 school year. Do we
And
have
that,
a name?
that-
and
That
that's,
would be me.
that's Mr.
Yeah,
Mulaney.
that would-
Yeah,
yeah.
All right, Board of Directors.
yeah.
Let me try, let me do this again.
Yeah.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair,
Ms. Roach.
I make a motion to appoint the superintendent to the Accept Board of Directors as our representative for the 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. And any further discussion? You want to do this? Okay, check it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
This is part of the job description that says, and all other things.
Yeah, right.
Okay, should we move to the time on learning, student handbook?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. And most of the changes to the handbooks this year are kind of wordsmithing or just some updating. There's no major substantive changes, and I'll start with Clyde Brown. And there was a draft of proposed changes from Tana Django, the principal, covering, clarifying student arrival by vehicles, where parents should drop them off, doors, etc. And where and when they can use certain access roads. Again, another change on what doors will be used for morning arrival. Visitors, where they can park if they're coming to the school. Parking, an update in how families report tardies. The fact that they should be calling in tardies, and the handbook didn't mention that, so that will be added with the phone number that they leave their information on for the student tardy. Clarifying some of the language on celebrations in classes at Clyde Brown as a result of allergies, etc. It's a strict no food policy, which is essentially what they had, but it's just clarifying that. Where they purchase breakfast in the morning, and some details about the cafeteria. And just as I'm mentioning the cafeteria again, I want to remind people that next year, just like this year, all student lunches are free for all students. So people certainly want to take advantage of that. And then some dismissal language, which again clarifies where parents pick up and how the procedure works, and how it works for walkers as well. And then some language on how to report a change of address, and just clarifying some of the language for student dress, and just simplifying some language on the Spanish immersion and preschool lotteries. The number of of applicants exceeds the number of spaces. And some language on tweaking new student enrollment, the online registration they have, et cetera. Emergency contact info, which is also can be done online now. And obtaining preschool program information. Again, information can be obtained online, or people can come to the main office to pick up an application, and again, mentioning the lottery. And again, kindergarten registration occurring in early spring online.
Bob,
Yes.
under clothing guidelines,
Yes.
because it was highlighted in yellow, it jumped out at me. Warm weather dress should be modest and in good taste.
Okay, so
They're
that's
getting rid of
being
it.
removed.
The left side is
And,
what they're getting rid
Yeah,
of.
the yellow is language that's being taken out.
Okay, so, okay,
We're
that's,
changing that. Okay.
now, but my second part of the question was, that's good that it's being changed. I did pay attention. Is the warm weather dress should be appropriate? Is that consistent amongst all three schools? If not, it probably should be.
You know, consistent to the point that what an elementary kid wears might be different.
Well, it's all relative, but I'm saying is the language, we don't have
it's-
modest and in good taste in
No,
the
no,
middle
no,
school,
no.
high school, right?
No, no. It's in the eye of the beholder. So those are the Clyde Brown proposed changes to the handbook, and I don't know if you wanted to.
I think we do them
if you had any
separately.
questions.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Mr. Conlon.
On the lottery procedures, removing the names will be pulled out of a container until all available slots are filled. I believe that was probably there intentionally because of the public nature with which the lotteries, especially for Spanish immersion, were done when the program started and we first started having lotteries.
Mm-hmm.
That I believe there was even times when it was videotaped.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think they'll continue to do that, but it may not be in that fashion, like removed out of a container.
So I guess maybe we,
Well, the
That-
yellow is being removed. Everything on that
no, I
side
know,
is
but
being
what's being replaced is no reference on how it's going
On
to
how
happen.
it's gonna be
Oh,
done.
I see.
So it's not about the word containers, it's about, it's a
Right.
notification that there's gonna be
Right,
that a public process is gonna
right, it
happen.
will be a public process, and it just may not be exactly that. And so it's just giving, any of those lotteries will be a public process with.
Or maybe not,
Well-
recorded, it'll be
where you're inviting
transparent.
parents in, but just.
Right,
Public or recorded.
right,
Or
exactly.
something that there's that it's not, the principal
Done
sitting
in
in
the
her
back
office
room.
picking
Yeah.
out of a.
I would actually not use public, I would say recorded.
That's fine, whatever.
Because public infers that the public can
They
then
can
come
come
in
in and watch.
and sit.
Yeah, right.
But are they posting a recording now?
When they do a lottery.
I believe they have in the past.
They do, like, record it so people know.
And people watch it.
Because
If it's necessary, if the number of
Yeah.
applicants is equal to or less than the number of seats,
Sure,
then they obviously don't have to do it.
sure.
I think it's available if a parent asks, they don't.
Ah, okay. I'm just wondering.
You know?
From my experience with the Spanish immersion lottery, I don't remember
Yeah,
them saying that the process was recorded and can be watched.
yeah. I don't recall that either.
And I can check on that, but I believe, I can talk to Tanner about what that process
Yeah,
would be.
I just think.
I just believe she wanted some latitude there to,
Yeah,
use
you can
technology
do it
or
digitally.
whatever.
Again,
Yeah,
Random
exactly.
assignment.
No, I completely get that, I know that probably the intention of this being in here was that it wasn't gonna be somebody sitting in a back room doing it by
Right.
themselves.
Because there's apps that you can use now that random generates
Right,
the numbers. So
exactly.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But maybe it's just that we have to add some add some language back in that the process will be monitored or recorded or something like that.
Transparent.
Transparent, yeah.
Because it's not a problem until it is a problem, and then it becomes a big problem.
Right, yep.
Are you done, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, my only other thing, which it's the whole non-food in classrooms.
Well, They, you know.
It's in the handbooks, we've approved it, it's never been a school policy, it's never been a policy. This school committee has never adopted a policy that said food was not allowed in classrooms. It's a protocol, it's in the handbook, it's been around for a while, I'm not real, but it's not a policy that any school committee from Millis has ever approved.
You good?
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Cantala.
I make a motion to approve the proposed changes to the Clyde F. Brown Student Handbook for the school year 2021 to 2022 as presented.
Not including the changes that we just made? With adding a line in
Don't we
about
want something
transparency?
added?
Well, as presented and revised during the discussion. We don't have to list them out
No,
in
that's
the
fine,
motion.
that's fine.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the Clyde Brown handbook. Any further? Oh,
I gotta be clear on that motion,
As
approved and presented, so the only thing that was presented was that you
was the lottery.
add
Was
to
the-
the
Yes,
Yep.
Clarifying the law.
Yep, that's it.
you got it?
any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. I think Mark.
seconded?
Mark
Yeah.
Mark
seconded?
did.
Yeah.
Yep. Did I miss the vote?
Yeah, we just did it.
Okay,
So middle
thank
school.
you. All right, so
For
middle school
yeah.
has really no substantive changes other than updating the school committee names and titles. And then also, obviously, there will be a new middle school principal on the masthead, and Millis, I can spill the beans now, Millis High School has hired the next principal of Millis Middle School, and that will be Mr. Christopher Glynn, and he is currently the assistant principal at the Kennedy Middle School in Natick. So we'll welcome him aboard and make sure we have his name in the handbook. And those are,
Mr. Conway.
I make a motion to approve the middle school handbook with the minor edits presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the middle school handbook. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
okay. And then the high school, again, a lot of kind of cleaning up the book to make it current. And the first change involves the change of name regulations from the state, which have been updated, and Massachusetts law recognizes common law name changes now, and so students may adopt a name that is different from the name that appears on their birth certificate, provided that the name change is done for a quote-unquote honest reason.
Is that from the legislation? Honest reason?
Yep.
I've never written legislation. I probably will never, but couldn't they just say without fraud, like what, an honest
Well, they
reason?
mentioned no fraudulent intent.
No, I understand that. They
Okay,
could have
not
done it
so-
without the honest
Yeah, I
reason.
think,
I was gonna strike that but if that comes from the legislation,
Yeah, it's the idea that someone's not doing it because they'll somehow change their name, they'll be in a different particular class, you know. So And certainly that.
Well, you don't have to justify what they
that
do on
cha-
Beacon Hill.
Yeah, and that changes the old law was if a student wanted to change their name, they'd have to come in with a legal document, and that is no longer the case, so we want to make that clear in our handbook.
Can we, I'm sorry, this is bothering me, and I know we're going to leave it in. Could we make it clear that this is language, give the site? Like, I would
Yep.
make, if we're pulling direct language, let's put it in quotes and make sure,
And reference the,
and reference the
Cite
Mass
the law.
General Law,
yeah.
Yep.
because that's jumping out at me.
Yep. And then the program of studies, and this copy of, that's in the handbook has a couple of changes we've made since that time. It talks about students needing 4 years of health and physical education, and also where instead of using the term foreign language, we'll be using the term that the state standards are written in, and the program of studies that Mr. Ardicki presented a few weeks ago, replacing foreign language with world language throughout the document. So it's just updating the description of requirements, and this also matches what is in our program of studies. And then the other change that is more substantive is the Faculty Council of the National Honor Society voted to change the grade point average for to be eligible to be invited to National Honor Society from an unweighted average of 85.00 to an unweighted average of 90. And this would commence with the class of 2025, so the incoming freshmen. And the reasoning for this change is that grade point averages over the last 20 years have really risen. And they've risen for a number of reasons, and part of the reason here in Millis that we've seen an increase in average grade point averages, the focus has kind of shifted to this idea of it's about the learning more than the teaching. We want kids to learn the material. So 20 years ago, you take a test, you don't do well, oh, that's too bad, we're moving on to the next thing. Today, you don't learn it, well, we want to make sure you learn it. So there are a lot more opportunities for kids to demonstrate mastery of the subject matter, to demonstrate what they know. And so, kids are given make-up tests and are given other ways to demonstrate, different projects and things like that to demonstrate mastery. So with that, they're showing us that they're learning it. As a result, their grades have gone up, which is a good thing. When you put that against next to the National Honor Society requirements, the 85.00 average was creating a situation where the vast majority of classes were eligible for induction in National Honor Society for their grade point average. And Mr. Ardicki included some statistics. For the last several years, over 70% of the students have been eligible because of their grade point average. Now, that doesn't mean they automatically get in. There's still character, service, and leadership criteria. However, one of the premises of the National Honor Society is that it's an academic society whose members above average academically. And so to kind of recalibrate membership. The faculty council voted to move the grade point average from 85 to 90. And, you know, if we use this past school year as, you know, as a case, if the standard had been 90 instead of 85, we still would have had 50% of the juniors and seniors, you know, qualifying as a grade point average. So it raises the bar, but it doesn't make it impossible to get into National Honor Society. And again, that's something that the faculty council votes on. And according to the National Honor Society Constitution, it's the faculty council that determines eligibility criteria in each of those 4 categories: academic achievement, leadership, service, and character. And then further in the book, STEAM Scholars Program, just a description of that. We've had that program in place now for about 3 years, where kids have an opportunity to apply to become STEAM scholars, and if they meet certain criteria, they are able to be part of this activity, and it gives them an opportunity to explore areas of interest and passion beyond the school day. And STEAM scholars do internships, they do special projects, and when it comes to their senior project, many of them choose a STEAM subject for their senior project. And we also have the Global Scholars Program, and we included a description of the Global Scholars program as well, and that's, you know, more of a humanities-based group where students who have passion for you know, the humanities have an opportunity to really go deep into an area of interest. And then on page 21, the cheating and plagiarism language has been updated slightly just to take into account the you know, the easy access to electronic information that students have. It's you know, clarifying that is you know, something that could, if not used properly, could be defined as plagiarism. And teachers work with students on that to say the types of things that are permissible and fair use, and the types of things that are plagiarism. And sometimes it depends on the assignment.
So I was going to ask a question. What is this? What are you trying? Give me an example. Because if it's a general assignment and they're using, I mean,
Right.
we're online, right? They're on Google all the time,
Right.
and they Google
So-
an answer to a specific question. That wouldn't be plagiarism.
Unless they were told, you cannot use Google for this. Or like if, you know, they're doing a Spanish project and they go on to Google Translate and just, you know, translate using that when they've been told.
So should this language be typed to where it says when prohibited, or I'm not trying to make it
I
more
think,
complicated because,
yeah.
but we're in a virtual environment at times, or even
Yeah.
when they're in person, they're still going to the web to get
Right,
information.
and sometimes that's where you want them, you know, you want them to do a search and find this stuff. But then there are other assignments where,
I don't want to make it so constrictive, but
right,
someone could push back if the language isn't.
well, I think what this does, it gives the teachers some latitude there to say, for this assignment, this is what, you know, you can use, do not use.
This is not an open notebook.
Yeah.
This is not
Right.
you can't visit the web. This
Right,
is
right.
strictly from.
Yeah, and just, there's been an uptick in the number of assignments where, you know, things are coming lifted right from websites and put into an essay or, a report or something like that. So it just points it out. It's not specific, but it gives latitude to the teacher. And these are the types of things kids really need to learn as they're moving on through high school and obviously into college, because the stakes are very high.
I heard from a guy at the college level, if one was going to map grades of tests in person versus online, there's been an extreme increase in higher grades online than in person, which could lead one person to speculate that there could be some chicanery going on.
And then
Some
there-
tomfoolery, right, Miss Roach?
Tomfoolery, yes.
Yeah.
Google
and
that.
Of course, there are some times when you want the kids accessing all that information and pulling
Absolutely.
it all together, because a lot of times, when they're in the world of work, sometimes that's what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Going out there, getting information, and then synthesizing it and using it.
It's how you get it and what you do with it, right? Madam Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
is everyone good? I make a motion to approve the changes to the Millis High School handbook for the school year 2021 to 2022 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the high school handbook. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, do you want to move into the superintendent's report on increased in-person learning, or whatever order you want to
Sure,
take it?
yeah.
It's fine.
So, in-person learning, we've had everyone back for a number of weeks. It's going very well. It is, we are getting back to normal because everyone's sweating out MCAS now and dealing with those things. So it's really, it's really been very positive having everyone back. We're looking forward for the last few weeks of school being fairly normal. And, I do have to commend the students for, adhering to the policies that have frankly kept our schools open. And, we expect that will continue as we finish off the year. The weather so far has been very good. Tomorrow might be a little dicey. And, we keep an eye on that. I think it's the 7th grade has MCAS tomorrow, and if the heat is too much upstairs, we'll have to move it to another day. But that's what we'll do. The last 2 days have been beautiful. So, those are the types of things we'll be monitoring there. COVID update, we have no cases in the schools at this time. We do have a few close contacts from outside, but nothing in the schools. And we began last Friday. Students were able to be outside without masks being required, and that has gone well. We have stocked the offices with a few more disposable masks because sometimes they're out and a kid drops a mask, and but that's been the only issue we've had to deal with. So that's gone well, and it's nice to see the kids outside and doing regular things, and so that's gone well too. Hiring update, as I mentioned, we selected Christopher Glynn for the principal of the Millis Middle School. Excited about that.
When does he start?
He will start July 1st. And he's already met with Mrs. Knowlton, and I think it's great that he'll have access to her throughout the summer and throughout the year. But he's very excited to be joining us, and we're very excited to have him And I have to say, the candidate pool was excellent. The candidate pool was excellent, and I think that speaks to, you know, the students, the staff, and the community here in Millis. It's become an attractive spot for educators. And I think,
Terry to come up for the SOI.
yeah, I think Mr. Wigan will speak to the SOI.
When I retire, I expect this to be engraved in my name,
The desk.
in memory of.
Okay, got it.
Jeez.
I
Thanks
saw
for
your
bringing us
name-
down, Terry.
I know.
I saw your name scratched into that one over there. With the stuff.
The one you can't sit at, right. Trust me, it's 3 years. So with the SOI was a process to enter. There was a couple things that were a little different. They wanted some interesting statistics, like how many windows we had. So we, thankfully, John had his staff count the windows. I knew they would want the
So
square
what's the
footage.
number?
Yeah, exactly,
many?
yeah. What is the number?
Oh,
You know what, I've tried to forget that. I'll tell you offline, because I have to look it up on my text. I knew they would want the square footage of the roof, that was obvious, so we had that. That I do remember is it's a little over 75,000 square feet. And there was a new question 4 regarding priority 5. Always in the past, they had the same 3 questions for all the priorities. This was the one priority that had 4 questions. And you can see my answer there. There is a error in one word, which we've corrected. The word "no" should be "knowing" in the second paragraph. But other than that, it is basically ready to move forward with a couple of, well, it's basically ready to submit, but the first step would be for you folks to approve a motion. And yes, the motion is here. So this is a very specific motion. It's a resolution. It is something that MSBA has both you and a version of this, the select board. If they choose to authorize Mike to do this, would have to approve the same thing. The synopsis of this is saying that you're basically asking to sort of move forward with the first step, but there's no guarantee that they will fund you, and there's no guarantee you will ask them for funding. That's important, because that's at the end of this. And I think it's important that I say on TV, this is literally the start of the process. It is to get in the queue for the MSBA, nothing more. All right, this does not guarantee a project, it does not guarantee a project next year, it does not guarantee a project in 10 years. It is literally to get a high school project in the queue. That's all it does. You really can't modify that motion the way it's written. And so now the decision is, the next step would be for you folks, if you choose, to make that motion. If you do, then what Bob and I would do tomorrow, I'll be off part of tomorrow, so it may be more Bob than I, but we would try to schedule a meeting with Mike to make sure we could schedule a meeting with the Board of Selectmen. And obviously present the SOI to them and have them take a similar vote. June 25th is our deadline. We still have plenty of time to go through this process, I think. So at that, I will leave it up to the committee to discuss.
Before we make a motion, have you had any conversations with Mr. Kaczynski about this process?
I'm not
Which
sure.
is fine, if you
No,
haven't.
yeah, I
We have.
believe we've mentioned it. We haven't gone into great detail. We just
And-
talked about the SOI and the
I,
state of.
I
the
think there would be a benefit to the chair reaching out to the Board of Selectmen chair kind of at the same time to make sure, because Mike's going to deliver the message. It wouldn't be a bad idea maybe for you and maybe another member of this committee to have a conversation with the chair to kind of outline the process, because it could just be a pro forma kind of event, or it could become a thing.
Right,
And we want to avoid a thing.
Sure.
agreed.
Okay.
What was the language? Inappropriate? What was the dress? We want to avoid the thing, whatever that is. Anyone else? Madam Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
I make a motion. Having convened an open meeting on May 25th prior to the SOI submission closing date, the Millis School Committee of Town of Millis, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated May 26, 2021 for the Millis Middle High School located at 245 Plain Street, Millis, Massachusetts, 02054, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future, which include 2, elimination of existing severe overcrowding, 4, prevention of severe overcrowding expected to result from increased enrollments, 5, replacement renovation or modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating, and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in school facility, and 7, replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the Millis School District to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for the SOI. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. ESSR2 grant application, Mr. Wigan?
This is pretty straightforward as opposed to ESSR1 and what has just been released the other day, ESSR3, which will come up in a little bit, a few weeks. Basically, there's 3 items that we're going to apply for ESSR2, which will all apply to next year. We're looking to fund 3 learning facilitators, 1 for each school. Total cost would be $72,900. That's based on, we basically pay them at a rate of our long-term subs. That's how that rate is determined. Payment for 3 additional tiers tutors with allocations to be determined. So we're basically figuring there's going to be 1 per school, but there's a little extra money there, and we might allocate that little extra money to increase the time. For example, here at the high school, we haven't really determined that yet, but there's about a $4,300 additional sum of money for some additional hours. And then the final is we still see potentially a need for tents. And if we're going to have tents, quite honestly, if we have the opportunity to purchase them, given how much it costs to rent a tent, which is considerable, we want to go and look in the market and see if we can buy a couple. So the $6,100 is there to see if we can go out and buy a couple tents. And I say up to a couple. It may not be 2, it might be 1, but in any event, we think that that's something we ought to consider. So, and then I just mentioned that, you know, coming right behind this will be $311,000 we need to allocate. That will be coming up. I can't even apply for that one until July 1st. So stay tuned for that one.
Questions for Terry?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Conway?
this isn't necessarily a Terry question, but Bob, are we, has there been, has there been any thought to whether the process of offering remote, I don't know what the state's gonna allow or not allow for next year, but if districts were allowed to maintain remote option for parents, is that something that we would be in a position to offer? Or is that something maybe not in this, but maybe in the 311,000, or if
Yeah.
we needed additional staffing to?
Yeah, I think what we're looking at, and there's been talk among some area districts, looking at utilizing our relationship with the Tech Collaborative, and there are already, Tech Collaborative classes that our kids take.
Yep.
So if the numbers were not great, which, I have no idea, but I would anticipate they're probably not great,
Yeah,
then
right.
that would probably be the option. But if the numbers were larger, then we would probably have to look at something that was more of an in-house program.
Yeah, because I've read where there are multiple districts looking to do some combined,
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
just regional type thing,
Right.
just for that reason.
right.
The numbers aren't gonna be huge most likely but that they're looking to, if it's an option for districts, we don't
Right.
know what the state's
Right.
gonna do.
And at a commissioners' meeting last Wednesday, the commissioner gave an indication that remote wouldn't be an option. But again, it has not been determined yet, and, over the course of the year, we've seen some things that, we think we're going one way and we go another, so.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Catalano?
and I think this is probably for Bob, not Terry. Of these three, well, besides the tents, of the two personnel-related proposals, which ones of those, is the first one directly related to COVID, and is the second one we have an opportunity to fund an underfunded line item with, we could always use more tiers tutors? Because my question is, what are we going to do in the future to, if we've identified this as a need, it's not COVID related, we need to start thinking, being strategic about building this into our budget.
Sustainable. Yeah, well, what I would say is, it is, the tiers tutors are COVID related to the extent that there has been, given the year we've had, the year and, 3 months from including last year, there has been, a significant impact on a number of kids with learning, you can't even call it learning loss, it's unfinished learning. So certainly the tiers tutors, the additional tiers tutors would help with that. They would also help with some other things, but I think, a bulk of their work would be, getting kids up to speed.
But is there a need after this grant expires?
I would say yes.
So that would be something we'd want to put on the, we haven't even started the new budget,
Right,
but
yeah, if you recall.
the wish list of
Right.
kind of,
And that was, certainly Mark Ordicki in the budget proposal, the request above 4%, that was one of the high school's requests, is,
Okay.
additional tutors hours. So, yeah, so it is tied to COVID, but certainly it's something.
sure. So obviously we will, if funding is being made available to us and we meet the requirements, we will obviously go after any and all funding. It's just a question of going forward, what do we do to sustain it?
Sustainable, sure, yes.
motion that the school committee approve the ESSR2 grant application as proposed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I just have a quick question, Terry. Are the tents used a lot right now? The one that you have
They
here?
are, yeah.
Every
Yeah.
day?
Yeah, I'd say every day.
Okay.
You know, it's certainly useful, like with the mask mandate removed outside, that's changed a little, but you still have classes going out, you know, depending on the size of the class. They've been great, actually. They've really been helpful. And now where kids can take their masks off outside, it's even more attractive for a teacher. If you have a full class with no remote kids and you don't need technology for a portion of a class, it's a great place to bring a class. You know, the challenge sometimes is if the grass is high over there and they're out cutting the grass, you know, coordinating that. But they've been an excellent addition.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Before we vote, what does ESSR stand for?
Elementary and secondary,
Elementary, secondary school emergency relief.
Yeah.
It's really ESSER.
Okay.
yeah, they just dropped the E because it makes it easier.
There's probably some other acronym that has the E that they put.
Oh, trust me, there's more acronyms right now than you can shake a stick at.
All right. Okay, we seconded it?
Carried.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
I think that's it for you, right?
I believe so.
All right, I had put on just a reminder about the updated mask policy, in case those of you don't know about it yet. Students are able to take their masks off when they're outside, like recess, or if they're taking a break or in the outdoor classroom. It's still need to have it on in the building and on buses. And we're gonna keep the mask policy in place until further notice, even though on Saturday, the governor's orders have changed for the state. At this time, we're gonna keep it the way it is through the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I believe it hasn't changed in schools.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yep. Just reminding people.
Yep.
Anything else? All right, looks like that's it for this evening.
Madam Chair, I didn't have the opportunity.
Mr. Catalano.
I didn't have the opportunity last week or the last time we met because we were transitioning power. But I wanted to publicly acknowledge and thank Ms. Roach for her chairwomanship last year. She had an incredibly challenging year to be chair. And we had our ups and we had some downs, and she did an excellent job. And I've told her privately, but I also wanted to acknowledge publicly, and the fact that she looks like she's angry at me and uncomfortable makes this so much better. But I want to thank Carrie. It was a difficult year for everyone in the building and this committee and the admin team. Carrie did an excellent job. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. I agree.
You look so uncomfortable.
Mr. Conroy.
I would make a motion that we adjourn to executive session for the purpose of contract negotiations and personnel, not to return to open session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move into executive session, not to return into open session. This is a roll call vote.
Yes.
Ms. Roach.
Yes.
Mr. Conroy. I am a yes, and Mr. Catalano.
Yes.
And Denise isn't here. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Thank you.